Hello everyone and welcome to a brand new episode of the Sports Insight with your host Andar Khan. And yes, as you know, we give you information about sports from all across the globe. You guys can surely reach out to us on our social media handle, which is @Indus News Sports. That basically works for Twitter and for Instagram. But anyways, we'll go to the headlines first. And yes, Pakistan actually managed to win against Zimbabwe in the first T20. And yes, from the world of NBA, Atlanta Hawks win against the Orlando Magic 112-96. And yes, from the world of football, Manchester United Executive Vice Chairman Ed Woodward stepped down from his role as the UEFA's Professional Football Strategy Council. From the world of golf, PGA Tour is offering $40 million in bonus money to the top stars. And yes, those were the headlines. And finally, we really had a very interesting match, Pakistan versus Zimbabwe in the first T20, where Pakistan managed to finally win against Zimbabwe. And this actually happened all the way from Harare. And to discuss this, we have with us Mr. Sabanda, our senior sports reporter from Zimbabwe. Sir, thank you for joining us.
It's my pleasure.
Great. So, Mr. Sabanda, I'll start off with this interesting match that, first of all, obviously, being Pakistan team, being in Zimbabwe is after the first time during the COVID situation, and I think it's an honor for the team to be there. I think it was a very, very thrilling match. The team Zimbabwe surely put in a lot of wisdom, specifically in the end to it. So what's your take on the entire match that you saw today?
Well, I think that this is a match that we pull away. They outplayed that team. It was pretty to lead the twist, and Pakistan were in all sorts of trouble. But then Mohammad Rizwan did come through for Pakistan with 18 not out, opened the batting 81 balls. That inning changed the game, and that last over bowled by Richard Ngaraba really changed the game for the Pakistanis. 149 for 7 in 20 overs. I think the Zimbabwe should have tried to reach Pakistan sometimes about 130 or even 120. It was there for taking for but they let it slip. But Pakistan managed 149 for 7, which Zimbabwe always had trouble. Facing even in the past. So it was always a bit difficult for them to chase. But Craig Evan and Simon Okamwe, that brilliant partnership that saw them nearly take Zimbabwe home. But they are Dane. They went quickly. The two of them. Simon Okamwe summed Rizwan of the bowling of Hafiz. Hafiz, hasn't bowled in a long time. But it got that important wicket of Simon Okamwe, and then Craig Evan also giving away his wicket as well. Trying to play reverse speed. And then Luke Chongwe, we saw him down the order. He decided to be brave. But it was already really late for Zimbabwe, who could have to 6 Pakistan to 130. The game was definitely there for Zimbabwe to play. But Pakistan winning the first T20 by 11 runs.
So yes, it has been an interesting match overall when we talk about, because to be very honest, even though Zimbabwe has the home ground edge, but we literally saw very interesting middle order lineup in terms of the batting side from Zimbabwe, because at one point I kind of really felt that Zimbabwe will somehow or the other take that victory.
Well, Zimbabwe did not have Brendan Taylor. He missed out because of illness, so couldn't play in this match. Then they had to bring in a youngster called Marumani. He did well in domestic T20 that was played last week, and he was under 19 player last year at the 19 World Cup. They did bring him in with the hope that he would carry the form that he had before this series. But he went as best bowler, so it didn't really work out. And there was Brendan Taylor will come in and the next game. Look, Jongwe, he did fight down the order, but it was not good enough because Zimbabwe, like I say, they did give away some extra runs, maybe 20 runs or so that they not given away to Pakistan. So that really cost them in this.
Right. But if you look at Pakistan's performance, I think it was mainly it was because of the fact that Mohammad Rizwan actually managed to stay back, because in the last over, I remember he managed to score those 20 runs because Zimbabwe were way ahead than how Pakistan was in the last over. What's your take on that situation? Because our entire team kind of fell off the same batting collapse of Pakistan, which usually is an issue for us.
Of course, Rizwan was a huge difference, and those runs over. You could change the function of the game for Zimbabwe. But when I say they gave away maybe 20 runs or extra that they should have not given away to Pakistan. So credit to Rizwan, he lifted up for Pakistan and gave those extra runs that they Zimbabwe during the game, I would say, with Evan and Kamunukamo betting. But as soon as those two went, so fair for Zimbabwe really much right there. Also, William Takava, they all so cheaply. There was much that they could implement.
But
Rizwan,
yes, Rizwan actually, yes. I think he only played as the backbone, because I think when it comes to a team touring to another country, specifically we're touring Zimbabwe first time after the COVID situation. So obviously to understand the environment and to get used to the environment is very, very difficult. But I think it was an interesting match. How do you see this development for the further upcoming matches against of Pakistan versus Zimbabwe? I hope there would be more learning, because I see very strong middle order from Zimbabwean side as well.
Well, Zimbabwe, like I said, if they bring Brendan Taylor into this into the team, you will definitely change the game. Maybe betting at number 3, Marumani didn't really impress on his debut. Maybe he was thrown in deep, in number 3 on his debut. Right. Maybe Brendan Taylor might come back into this. But Pakistan informed. They just came from South Africa where they won 4-1. Right. So they have the momentum now. They're winning test. T-20. So they might. I won't be surprised if they even go on to win the series 2-0. But Zimbabwe will definitely fight. They did show that they can fight in this match. But they will definitely fight in this series. To bring Taylor, he might change this setting lineup for Zimbabwe.
Right. But the most interesting thing is, as you mentioned, yes, Pakistan did come up with victory against the Proteas, which was 4-1. And not only that, in the ODIs, we also won 3-1. But the interesting part is, I think it's been a while when you see Babar Azam's performance like it was today, because Babar Azam has actually proven his worth as world number 1 ODI batsman. So what's your take of him, coming up to a conclusion of getting out at the very early, like only 4 balls, and he was out for 2?
All the Robin bowlers they were on the money from the goal. Ndarabani getting Babar Azam for 2 earlier on, and the Robin bowlers they really wanted this game. But there's some drop catches as well, mind you. There were some drop catches as well in it. So that's what cost Zimbabwe the game. But Babar Azam, the best batsman, one of the best batsmen in the world in this format of the game, he went early. Out to Zarabani for 2, but I expect him to come out really well in these remaining matches. He wants to prove he's the world's best in this format of the game. So I would expect that he would really come out to prove that these 2 runs he scored today were just a minor setback. And I expect Azam to come out. He's the captain of the team, so we expect him to really succeed in the remaining matches.
Right. It would surely be interesting, because obviously today was the first T20. There are more to come, and I think both the teams will now kind of understand the balance of each other, because now they're playing 1 game against each other. So I think they will surely have a more interesting and more thrilling games from how I see it, because Obviously, Pakistan batting order just fell down. I think it was Mohammad Rizwan's performance not out to come up to that point of taking the team, because even in this time, if we look into it, Babar Azam, obviously a world-class batsman, but was unable to come up to that point. Fakhar Zaman could not do much. He was out on 13. And even if we talk about, there's this one person that I would want to talk about. Haider Ali is one of a very interesting players from Pakistan, but unfortunately, he has still not been able to perform even when he was in South Africa.
Yes, there was also, there was the scorecard shows a lot of, Rizwan really stood up. There was not really much. Aziz did score about 15 of 11, but Haider Ali only managed 5 of 9. His strike rate of 5%. He struggled today. He was not really only one. There was a lot of struggles. The Pakistan batting order card is the sort side. That's Rizwan, 82. All that we talk about really was not really much from the rest of the guys. Haider Ali, one of the guys who really struggled as well today.
So yes, that was some interesting analysis all the way from Harare. And not to forget that, Mr. Sabanda actually added a lot of wisdom to us in terms of the cricket situation in Zimbabwe. But obviously, if you look into the stats that we were actually discussing, yes, Pakistan still managed to clinch that victory, 82 runs. I think those 82 runs from Mohammad Rizwan, Mr. Consistent as we call him, is those 82 runs that have actually managed to bring us here. Because like I said, there has always been an issue of the Pakistani batsmen in, specifically falling. And once the crumbling effect starts, everything falls down. Even Babar Azam was unable to perform. I think I've never seen a single-digit score from him for a while, but he managed to score 2 runs, which obviously I discussed. But I think it's about time that, team will evolve. And not only him, Fakhar Zaman, who actually showed his worth back against the Proteas, was unable to perform as well. Same goes for Mohammad Hafiz. So I think, as we see the development of Pakistan cricket team, Shaheen Shah Afridi was not playing because he, somehow the management decided to understand the fact that he needed to rest. And even if we look at the bowling stats from Pakistan, I think it's pretty interesting that, Pakistani bowlers actually managed to get some good score as well, because if they had not managed to take those specific wickets, specifically the leggy when we talk about Usman Qadir, and I think I've been discussing this for a while to introduce Usman Qadir, because I think for him, I think he's one of the most phenomenal leg spinners. Not only him, I think he managed to score get 3 wickets, and the runs were 29 runs in 4 overs with an economy of 7.25. But I think, and I wish the team the super best ahead, and I hope the end conclusion of the next upcoming matches would be as interesting and as thrilling as this match was. But anyways, we'll take a break, and once we're back from the break, we'll further discuss the world of sports. Till then, see you guys after the break. And yes, welcome back from the break. And before the break, obviously, we were discussing the world of cricket. But obviously, we always share more in-depth analysis when it comes to different sports. So the next sports that we're actually going to talk about is the world of NBA. And to discuss the world of NBA, we have with us Mr. Ricardo Burrito. Ricardo, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me again.
Great. Ricardo, there's a lot of struggle going on in the world of NBA for the teams to actually, struggling to qualify in the top 10 for the playoffs. To begin with, we would want to talk about Atlanta Hawks' victory against Orlando Magic, 112-96. And what's your take on that? Because it's going to be an interesting bit, because the Hawks are currently 4th in the conference.
Yeah, the Hawks are playing extremely well. They won the 5th game in their last 6 games. So it was another great victory for the team led by Trae Young. It was a brilliant game by Lou Williams, the late addition the Hawks had on the trade deadline. Lou Williams had his best game since joining his hometown Hawks. And but the team is defending well, and that's the main issue for the recent success the Hawks have had. That's something that Coach Nate McMillan just brought to the team, and they are securing their 4th spot in the Eastern Conference. So I believe we'll have the Hawks in the playoffs.
Yeah, for sure. But there are a lot of teams that are still not, obviously, as discussed, because they all would want to be that top 10 prospective side. A lot of teams are struggling to get there. How many matches to go to come up to that point of the final playoffs?
Well, the East is a tougher fight because we have lots of teams still with the chance to get in the play, and we have the Chicago Bulls are not on a good phase of the season because they lost Zach LaVine with COVID for 2 weeks, even though they won their last two games. But they have the Washington Wizards with the same record. They have the Toronto Raptors with the same amount of victories.
Right.
So it's three teams for one spot, and that will be a fight until the end of the regular season. So we'll see who can get that 10 and last spots in the playing tournament.
Yes, absolutely. And even if we talk about, obviously Cavaliers have been struggling as well, but like as you said that they eventually have to turn up to be in the top 10. The next match that I want to talk about is obviously New York Knicks against Charlotte Hornets, 109-97, and this is New York Knicks' 7th straight victory. What's your take on that?
Well, the New York Knicks fans didn't see their team winning 7 straight since 2014. So it's a major improvement for the Knicks. And once again, they didn't suffer 100 points. So the defense is incredible. Coach
Right.
Tom Thibodeau is making a remarkable job. It's a living hell trying to score points on the Knicks defense. And then in the offense, they get things done. They are not a great offense, but they have Julius Randle, first-time All-Star, probably the most improved player of the season. They have R.J. Barrett. Yesterday, Barrett scored 18 of his 24 points in the third quarter. So they are getting things done in the offensive end, but their DNA, it's defense, and they are defending really good.
Right. I think their tactic is definitely more on the offensive, but yes, keeping that score line under 100 would surely add more value to the team on the defense side.
Yes. The defense is great. On the game against the Charlotte Hornets, they suffered only 31 points in the second half, 16 points in the third quarter, 15 points in the fourth quarter. So it was perfect. They suffered 31 points in the second half. They scored 31 points in the third quarter only. So that's a major improvement for the Knicks this season. Their defense is ramping up. They are third in the defensive rating. So that's their DNA. Defense. That's Coach Thibodeau. That's his way.
I think that's one of the most smartest way to move by when it comes to basketball. I would want to talk about another match that happened, obviously, Nets versus the Pelicans, and the Nets 134, Pelican 129. So what's your take on that? When we talk about the Nets, we always talk about the trio and the situation, the scenario. So what's your take on the Nets? Because right now the Nets are on number 2, this is spot number 2. What's your take on their performance with regards to Pelicans?
Well, the day started with the bad news for the Nets, with James Harden suffering a setback in his recovery. He was going to come back probably this week, and they just announced that he probably will take a few more weeks to come back. So we still won't be able to see the three-headed monster of Kyrie Irving, James Harden, and Kevin Durant for a few more weeks. They just played 7 games, 186 minutes together, so that's not much. We'll see if they can play a few more games before the playoffs start. But when they have that level of talent, they can win games. And Kyrie Irving scored 32 points, had 8 assists, and he was the guy that took the ball and decided in the end. With the pull-up jumper, with a layup in the end, so that guy took over the game. For the Pelicans, it's tough because they are on the 11th spot in the Western Conference, and they are starting to fall a little bit behind the standings. They are now 4 games away from the San Antonio Spurs. They are 10th in the standings, and the playoffs are coming really soon, and I believe the Pelicans are starting to lose some traction, so probably they won't be on the playoffs.
But to be very honest, when it comes to any team facing the Nets, they'll surely come up to that shock of, let's face it, if we're talking about Nets, yes, obviously James Harden missing surely is an issue, but we have Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving.
Yeah, Kevin Durant didn't play yesterday because he had the knee contusion against the Miami Heat, so he just stayed out of the game. We'll see if he plays tonight against the Toronto Raptors. So it was just Kyrie yesterday, and there were not
sometimes there are players like these that actually make in and bring out the best of the best when it comes to a team. But anyways, would want to talk about the next match that I would want to talk about was one interesting match of the 76ers versus the Warriors. What's your take on that? Because obviously Steph Curry made his point on, getting on the higher scale.
Yeah, Steph Curry is playing like the MVP right now.
Right.
Just another game with the 30 or more points. He had a big game with 49 points. Stayed only 1 point shy of the 50 mark again, and it's his 11th straight game scoring at least 30 points. He's playing out of his mind.
Right.
We know.
The struggle, as you see, when it comes to him, is like going from one step to another, and each and every match that he's performing at is getting 1 point higher. But yes, the tough part is that it's still interesting because obviously they won against the 76ers because of him.
Yeah, the Sixers played without Ben Simmons and Tobias Harris, so that helped the Golden State Warriors. But we can't take the merits out of the Warriors, and especially of Steph Curry, who is playing really good. This week he's had an average of 44 points and shooting 55% from 3-point range. So that's just amazing. If he continues with this late push until the end of the regular season, maybe he can get in the MVP discussion with Nikola Jokic.
Obviously, Enrique, when it comes to Steph Curry himself, I think he surely is one of the living legends out there, and I hope that things go well for the Warriors in the future as well. Would want to talk about an interesting match. Obviously, would want to talk about Bulls versus Celtic, because if Bulls had to, they eventually managed to win, but after a lot of struggle. Otherwise, it would have been Celtics' 7th consecutive victory over Bulls if they had lost this match.
Yeah, they snapped the Celtics 6-game winning streak. That was huge for the Chicago Bulls because they are trying to get to secure their spot in the play-in tournament. They are now 10th in the Eastern Conference, right. And it's huge. Garrett Temple said in the end of the game, they are fighting the fight of their lives. The fight of their lives is trying to get in that playing tournament. And without Zach LaVine, it's not going to be easy for them. He'll be out for around 2 weeks with COVID. So we'll see if they can manage to find a way to secure one of those 10 spots to get in the playing tournament because the Washington Wizards and the Toronto Raptors are right behind them.
Right. It's going to be an interesting journey ahead, obviously, being in the top 10. Obviously, they're still struggling. Which match are you looking forward for in terms of the upcoming ones that you would find super interesting, that, that may change the fate of any of the, teams out there?
Well, we have one great matchup tonight between the Washington Wizards and the Golden State Warriors. The Wizards are trying to get to that 10 spot that belongs to the Chicago Bulls, and the Warriors are still trying to hold on to the 9th spot in the Western Conference. We have Russell Westbrook in one side, the 10 triple-doubles in the last 11 games. We have Steph Curry on the other side playing outstandingly in the month of April. So I believe we have a clash of point guards in this game, and may the better man win.
Yeah, that would surely be an interesting take when it comes to this place. We hope that match turns out pretty good. Anyways, Ricardo, well, thank you so very much for being a part of the show and discussing the world of NBA with us. It was a pleasure.
My pleasure.
Great. So that was Ricardo. And yes, he did discuss the world of NBA, and not to forget that he also mentioned the upcoming match, which is surely going to be interesting, which is the Wizards versus the Warriors, which will be happening tonight. So we'll surely look into that because Steph Curry is recently on fire when it comes to his performance as, as the main guy representing the Warriors. Anyways, I'll quickly switch over to the world of football and give you a bit of updates. Manchester United Executive Vice President Ed Woodward resigned from his role. That has been an interesting perspective, and Manchester City and Chelsea obviously withdrew from the Super League on Tuesday. Still a lot of controversies going on in between because of the fact that the European Super League is something that has been established, and there are so many repercussions that we're facing already. And a lot of clubs are, even the top 6 clubs are the ones that have actually been there trying to represent themselves. But it has been interestingly to a point because there is a pyramid system that actually works, in which obviously when we talk about the championship, and then comes the Premier League, and then Tier 1, Tier 2. So there's this pyramid structure that's actually made, but making this European Super League is going to be very, very interesting, and because of the fact that it's going to maybe break that situation and scenario of the pyramid. So even the government side has a lot of debate with regards to this, and Chelsea fans have also started protesting outside Stamford Bridge. So things are kind of growing up when it comes to this situation, and all the 6 Premier League clubs withdrew from the Super League, which is going to be a big controversy. But let's see, as things develop on that, we'll surely talk about that. But anyways, that was from the world of football. I'll quickly jump over to the world of golf. Yes, PGA Tour is awarding 40 million bonus pool to the top 10 players. The payout goes to the top 10 players of the year. So as we all know, golf itself is one of the most expensive when it comes to prize winning. We've seen so many tournaments that we've discussed on the show and have actually provided us with the amounts that we are literally surprised. And I think this would definitely add a lot of courage and justice to all the top 10, and I think this would easily make them do and perform more. So I think that's an interesting announcement, but it would be basically determined by the cumulative score of measuring popularity. So I think with time we'll probably have an idea of where exactly the $40 million will be going to. But anyways, guys, this was pretty much it from the world of sports. If you guys want to reach out to us, you can on our social media handle, which is @Indus News Sports. That basically works for Twitter and Instagram. Till then, take good care of yourselves, and bye-bye.